and older with a disability, or a senior. We never require a form, any kind of special form for disability or anything that qualifies a senior. If somebody's in need, we pretty much, like AERS, we'll take them on and see what we can do to assist. Our primary goal is to help people remain in the community. And I always add the little caveat of to do that safely. MAP starts with what the state has developed called a level 1 screen. It's a screening tool, computerized, that we can complete pretty quickly, 10 to 15 minutes usually, over the phone or in person. But because it was developed to be able to use over the phone, it has really served us well during COVID. And it's a small screening tool, and it's a small piece of what AERS will do. And I know Diane will get into that more in detail when she presents, but it just starts giving us insight. One of the unique things we do here in Frederick County with our level 1 screen, anyone who applies for Meals on Wheels in our county receives a level 1 screen. We feel that if there's a nutritional need, there is possibly other needs that maybe are hidden or unspoken, and maybe we can address those at the time we're addressing a nutritional need. It gives us insight into the possibilities of what a client may need to remain in their home, and also helps direct us so we can make appropriate referrals and get them attached to other programs such as AERS. So I'm guessing that we've become AERS' primary referral source into there, because one of the only ways to access the community options waiver in the state of Maryland is through the MAP level 1 screen. So let me explain a little bit about what the waiver is. The state has many waiver programs. So if you work anywhere with people with disabilities or elderly, you will hear that word thrown around. But basically what that term means is our programs that assist folks in their home. So my waiver happens to be community options. It is designed for seniors or folks with disabilities to provide services. So we do our level 1 screen, and after the screening process, that allows us the ability then to place clients on a list. And I tell people, in the days where community options waiver started, people were simply put on a list. And the list, just as you could imagine, just grew and grew and grew. And if you went on and you were number 2,912, you stayed 2,912 until whatever point. About 2.5 years ago, the state then developed a new way to process those names and needs by triaging the responses to the level 1. So looking at things like how people are able to complete their daily living activities, how much assistance they need, are they looking into long-term care, those kinds of things, through logarithms allows the state to come up with a number that determines a client's level of need. And that then places them on the list, and that list is triaged every single night. So if you've gone on the list and you're right in the middle, which would be you score 3, it doesn't mean you're always going to be that 3. As time goes on and people come on and off the list for various reasons, that number is reevaluated. I also encourage family and clients to call in to update their level of screen if there's a significant change that has occurred. Somebody has digressed, maybe somebody's gotten better, but that's usually not too much what we hear in our world. But the screening tool is very simple and can be done quickly. And so there's no need to to put that off. That can be done. And we rescreen all the time. So that level 1 screen then leads us more often than not into that referral into AERS. And their screening tool is much larger. But MAP does more than just that level 1 screen. MAP works while we're screening for those kinds of needs. We're also screening for financial need. We work with clients on income and what other subsidies that they may qualify depending on that income. And we assist in the completion of program applications for qualified Medicare beneficiary, low income subsidy for prescription coverage, the senior prescription drug assistance program, energy assistance, those kinds of programs. We help with application completion and submission for them. So, again, trying to help that client remain in their home, and again, safely, because financial safety and security, I think we all would agree, is extremely important. Over the last several years, we've become very involved with the property tax credit application and the renter's tax credit. So we work very closely with Frederick County Treasury Office to assist seniors and others in getting those applications completed and submitted, and helping folks with those needs, and at points in time, really, helping them retain their homes. And there have been times when things get kind of iffy with that because of taxes, and I'm sure you've seen sad tax sale stories, or you've heard them, but we work really hard with other local agencies to try and avoid those scenarios. We also work, as I stated earlier, very close with our Meals on Wheels program, and trying to keep in touch with those clients that are Meals on Wheels recipients. So again, that we can keep their needs met. And that program allows us a lot of eyes on a client to see what may be changing, especially if they're alone. We work very closely with veterans in our community. As Christina shared, I am one of the founding members of our CVEB for Frederick County. My father was a veteran. I take that role very seriously, and the needs of our veteran and our community, and trying to assist them as well. So linking them to service. You would be surprised at the number of veterans, retired, folks who served actually in combat, may have injury, etc., who are not connected to the VA or veteran services. So we work really hard on trying to close all those loops. So yes, we work directly with clients on many, many occasions, but we also work very closely with family members, caregivers, neighbors, people in the community, churches, all kinds of folks who refer seniors into us with concerns. And we try to work with everybody to help secure that senior and their happiness and well-being in our community. Through many partnerships, Christina's being one with Daybreak, Alzheimer's Association, our own caregiver support program. MAP definitely does not do this on its own. We are just the gateway to all of those services. So, I want to take a time now to turn things over to Diane. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I want to give Diane some time to be able to hop on here and kick off, because what AERS does is very important.
Thanks, Joy. Yeah, and just to reiterate what Joy said, we have a wonderful, wonderful community, and we're blessed to have a fantastic network. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak today on behalf of AERS. Joy and I have known each other forever, it seems like, and we work very well together. And we do have a great partnership with many folks in our community. We could not function without the partnerships that we've formed throughout the community. And so AERS, for those of you that don't really know about AERS, and a lot of people don't, they have, to this day, I've been with the program for a long time, and we'll come across folks that don't even know that we existed. But our program is called the Adult Evaluation Review Services Program. It's a little confusing because we do serve children too. We have children with disabilities that we serve in the community for the Community First Choice program. So we do the assessments for that. But most importantly, I think what kind of the folks in the community need to know is we're trying to get away with from the referrals coming straight to AERS. We'd really like to funnel the referrals through MAP first and foremost, since we have this wonderful partnership, because that can get the ball started on a lot of things. You may wait about a week or so. We pride ourselves in our county seeing clients within a week or two at the most. We have communities counties throughout the state who have told us that they are 3 to 6 months behind in seeing clients for an AERS assessment. We are blessed not to have that problem in our community. So with that being said, we'd like to funnel all the calls through MAP first and let Joy and her folks do the level 1 screen. And again, that also helps kind of, somebody might not want to sit through a 2-hour AERS assessment if they only need a list of housing resources, or they need a Meals on Wheels referral, or some other kind of financial assistance. So we'd like to go ahead and send those calls through MAP first at the Division of Senior Services, and then Joy and her group will kind of weed through those and then make the necessary referrals to AERS, because it is about a 2-hour assessment. It's a psychosocial and medical assessment on the individual, and it does take some time. Right now with COVID, we're not going into the homes. Prior to COVID, all of our assessments were in the homes. I still think that that's the best way to do things, because you can get your eyes on what the situation is a little bit better than over the phone. You may kind of pick up on some things that you may not be having the client share with you over the phone. So, but right now it's all telephone assessments. So again, it's a psychosocial and medical assessment. Again, it's 20-something pages. It's about 2 hours. And again, we invite families or caregivers to sit in on those assessments to kind of help give us a better picture. What we do with that information is we make recommendations and referrals. So again, that same pool of folks that Joy is using as her referrals and resources, that's who we're using as well. And again, that's why I said early on, we're so blessed to have the resources that we have in our community. Other communities aren't as rich in their services for our seniors. So although we have a lot, they're also very limited. So again, we're all trying to pull from the same pot of resources. Unfortunately, we don't have enough to go around. So we try to, piecemeal where we can. So again, it's so important for Joy's group to go ahead and kind of vet those referrals for us, so we get the most appropriate referrals. And then my team is made up of nurses and a social worker. And again, they'll do the assessment, and then they write a care plan based on what they got out of that assessment and what the recommendations would be for that client. We involve lots of community partners, just as Julie said. We work a lot with APS, which is Adult Protective Services. In some cases, we work with Child Protective Services. We work very close with the Senior Services Division, of course. Daybreak is often a recommendation for our families that have loved ones that need some, some supervision or some assistance during the day while they're working. Give them some peace of mind. Where can I put my folks in a safe environment while I'm working and I don't have to worry? So Daybreak's a wonderful resource for us. Some folks are looking for assistance with, assisted living. Our goal at AERS is to keep folks home. Our goal is not to place folks, and that's not our role, our job. Our job is not to place someone. We advocate for the least restrictive environment. So we'd like to have people remain safely in their home, if we can do that. Now, sometimes that's not the best place for that person. We've done the assessment, and the needs are way too great to keep that person safe in the community. So then we help with the families kind of navigate through that, give them the resources they need to make those connections to, maybe it's OASIS or Care Patrol, some other agencies that can help them navigate and try to find an alternative living arrangement for that person, or in-home care services too. So we often, talk to the physician, because sometimes there's med mismanagement there. So again, we work closely with the hospital and some of their care transitions programs and other programs that they offer, the chronic care disease program and things like that. So again, we can reach out to our partners in the community and write a care plan and make recommendations and offer those resources and make those referrals on the client's behalf. It's important to note that just because we make those recommendations doesn't mean that you have to follow them. That's a lot of some families say, well, you said my mom needs this, and she won't do it. We can't make anybody do anything. We also can't make someone sit through a 2-hour assessment if they don't want to. We get a lot of referrals. People will send us referrals and the person's not interested. They feel that they are fine, that they don't need someone coming in and telling them what they need and what they should be doing. They are handling their life just fine. So a lot of times we get called in when there's a crisis. We like to get ahead of the game, like Joy, we want to just get in there and make these recommendations and offer those resources and help you develop a plan before it gets to a crisis situation, because there's nothing worse on a Friday afternoon at 4:00, getting a call about somebody who's homeless. And we've had that happen. So then, again, we reach out, we do a powwow. Now with the beauty of this whole virtual environment that we're in, we all jump on a Teams meeting and we can talk about like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about this client, right? Sometimes there's nothing we can do, but we are all working together on behalf of making sure that client can stay home, remain in the community, and remain safely. So that's a big piece of what AERS does. But we do the PASSAR. And that's a pre-admission screening and resident review. And that's for anybody that's in the nursing home. In the hospital that's going to a nursing home that has a diagnosis of a mental illness or a disability. So that's back in the day, people were warehoused and so this got put into place by the federal government. So we don't do that anymore. So anybody that has a mental illness or a disability will have to be screened by our office to make sure that placement is appropriate for them. Again, because our goal is to keep people in the least restrictive environment. So can they remain in the community in a group home, or do they really just need to go to the nursing facility for short term, for some rehab and then return to their group home or another environment in the community? So that's another task that AERS has to do. We are mandated to do. It's a federal mandate that person has to be screened. So that we work very closely with the hospital before discharge to make sure we make that connection. So if you're a family member of someone who, you might get a call from us saying, hey, this person has a mental illness and they have to be screened by AERS before they can go to the nursing home for rehab. And then we include you in that process. And then there's a care plan and a determination and whatnot. So, you may get that piece of AERS as well. And again, like I said early on, we're a Medicaid program. We are funded by Maryland Medicaid. Even though all the clients we see aren't Medicaid clients, they're lower income. Part of the criteria has to be for an AERS evaluation that you're at risk for institutionalization, and that within 6 months, if you were placed in a nursing facility, you would have to go on to Medicaid for long-term care. So if you have a lot of resources, financial resources, AERS really isn't the stop for you. Even though we have never turned a client away. We've got folks that come in that have had plenty of financial resources and really did need an AERS assessment by those standards, but we don't turn anybody away. If there's somebody in doubt that you're not sure because a lot of times we don't know, they don't tell us their financial resources. You as a caregiver or a friend or a neighbor may not know your neighbor's finances. So you make that referral on their behalf and they're agreeable to have the assessment. And sometimes, during the assessment, they'll give us that information. It's not required. We'll put unknown. So we don't base our assessments on financial requirements. Like we're not going to turn anybody away. But that's supposedly the criteria that they're supposed to go by, is that you're at risk for institutionalization, and within 6 months of being placed in a nursing facility, you would have to apply for Maryland Medicaid. Okay, so we see Medicaid clients for the home-based community services, and that would be like the CPAS, which is personal care assistance in the home, and the COW, the Community Options Waiver that Joy had referenced. Years ago, when I first came back to AERS, we were the ones that put everybody on the registry, right? We had those nightmares of thousands and thousands of people on the registry. It was the AERS assessors that came back to the office and made the referral. Now that's MAP's job, right? So that's why we say it's very important for Joy and her group to get a jump on things, because a couple weeks waiting for an AERS assessment, you could already be on the waiting list for the cow, so we want to go ahead and be proactive. So if everybody's funneled through MAP, Joy and her folks can do their screening, get all that information into the system, and then she can farm out the referrals as she feels appropriate. Okay. I'm not going to say that we won't take a referral off the street, because there is no wrong door. We do not turn anybody away. If you are not sure, we will help you sort that out. Should I have gone to MAP first? Should I just call the AERS main number and make my own kind of self-refer? Because we take referrals from everyone, doctor's offices, APS, sheriff's office, MAP, of course, neighbors, friends, you name it. It doesn't matter. We'll take a referral. But a lot of times we will say, if you haven't gone through MAP, we'll go ahead and schedule your assessment. In the meanwhile, why don't you go ahead and get screened by Joy, so you're not waiting for a couple of days, because, again, a couple of days could mean a big difference, when you need help. All right. So let's see, what else does AERS do? That's primarily, that's the big things that we do that I think the community mostly knows. Is just the PASS-R piece. Again, that always just comes from the hospital or the nursing facility, not so much from the community. You're mostly going to be worried about, making the community referral and getting an AERS assessment, and then letting us help guide you and give you the resources and make the recommendations on the services that we feel that you need at that time, or your loved one needs at that time. We don't do home health. We get calls for folks to say, hey, my medication needs refilled, or I have a wound, I need a dressing change, I can't get a hold of anybody, that kind of stuff. AERS nurses do not do that. We're not a home health agency, but we can help get you connected. So again, there's no wrong door. There's no wrong question. If you're in doubt, you're not sure if it's something that AERS can handle, of course, reach out to Matt, talk to Joy and her folks, and they'll let you know, or just give us a call at AERS and we can talk it out and see if is AERS the best and the most appropriate referral, or, is it really, you just need to get a hold of you have a home health agency, you just don't know how to get a hold of them, or things like that. So we've helped kind of troubleshoot. We've had the beauty of having a case management position for a little while. However, that position is vacant. So we did some short-term case management as well, which was wonderful, because some folks need a little bit more hand-holding through this process, and having a case manager on staff was wonderful, because then we could let that person kind of spend that extra time with them. Right now, again, that position's vacant. We don't have that luxury right now. So my nurses and my social work assessors do the best they can. But again, right now, our primary focus is just on giving the family or the individual the resources that they need to get this help that they need, or making those referrals on their behalf. Okay, so I think that's kind of AERS in a nutshell. Again, it's about a 2-hour assessment, 22-page assessment, and it's very cumbersome, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to go through and answer the questions as honestly as possible, because we want to really get a good picture of what we can do for you. So if you're calling on behalf of someone, don't be ashamed. We have a lot of people that don't want to call. They don't want anybody in their home. They don't want to have to be honest and say, I need help. A lot of people, for this age group, especially our seniors, you're so proud, so very proud, and don't want to admit that they need help. And that's okay. That's what we're here to do. That's our job. Our job is to help you figure it out. So please, if you're somebody yourself that needs assistance, or someone, we need to break that barrier down. It's okay to ask for some help, and let my wonderful colleagues and my team jump in there and just tell you what's out there, because there's wonderful services out there. The resource guide that the Senior Services Division prints out and has available to everyone, we hand those out when we do our assessments. Now that we're not doing in-home, we will mail those out to you. Joy will put up a slide here in a little bit to give you a link to get an online version of that, but there's a lot of good information in there, a lot of good information. So again, our county is very rich in senior services. So I think I've kind of talked my time probably. So you probably have a lot of questions. And
Diane, I'm going to go ahead and bring Joy into the spotlight if I can.
Okay.
Oh,
yep.
I did it. And so do you guys want to share the contact information now? I know we have a slide that we're going to put up at the end, but just if people are taking notes, if they can put your contact information down.
Yeah, absolutely. I can give you the phone number to AERS. The main phone number is 301-600-1736. We are housed at the Frederick County Health Department. I have an admin staff person there Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. So we do accept walk-ins.
Even now during COVID, Diane?
Yeah, they will. You have to self-screen before you come into the building, but they will allow a walk-in at this moment. It hasn't changed as of this week. Things on the uprise of COVID, things might change. So they're not letting anybody in the health department. But right now, if someone wanted to do a walk-in to make a referral or had questions, they could still do that. But that could change at any moment.
Okay. And Joy, what about MAP? You're on mute.
The easiest way for MAP is to call the main number for Senior Services Division, which is 301-600-1234. Right now, we are not taking walk-ins. The building is closed. But the best way would be to call that number. Or if you prefer email, you can get to Senior Services via our webpage. And I tell people simply to Google Frederick County Senior Services, and you can access via email through that, and makes it easier.
Perfect. And I see that my great co-hosts have put in the phone numbers in the chat box. They've also put the link. Joy, can you talk a little bit about what the Blue Book is, the resource directory? Mary's put the virtual link, but tell us about that book.
So it used to be an annual publication for Senior Services to put out, and it's a resource guide for all the different resources in the county, whether they're government, nonprofit, or for-profit business. There's legal resources in there, kind of A to Z on assistance for, again, seniors and anyone 18 and older with a disability. So there's some disability information in there, places where to go to, help get some of those questions answered that you may have. Now, one of the other things that the state asks the different maps, because every county has a map, like every county has an AERS. We are also tasked with maintaining a separate database. And so we do have that at our map. We try to keep it updated and vetted as much as we can for different resources. And not so much local. So some of them can be national, different things like that for programs or assistance or whatever have you that somebody may need. And then some, smaller things that go on that if somebody needs services. So we try to keep that up to date and, and shared with our colleagues that we work with, so that people have that information, because it's important, very important information. So between that and the Blue Book, hopefully we'll have something to match everyone's need, but sometimes not so, but we try.
Joy, I know that, in the good times when we had lots of different events and people could walk in, you could get a hard copy of the book. I've got one. Whoops, you can't see it. Here we go. How can someone, if the digital version just doesn't work and they'd like a written version, can they call? Can they have that sent to them or pick it up?
Certainly can. They can call the 1234 number, and one will be mailed out to them. If they want to slide by, I would suggest calling first and just letting the office staff know, because there's only one person staffing the office. I'm going to be over that way in about 20 minutes. Can I slide by and pick up a Blue Book? There is a doorbell there, and they answer that. So, they would be happy to hand one or mail one to you, because I, like Christina, find it much easier to utilize the hardback version than the virtual version. Just just, because I don't know if it's my age or what it is, but
you can dog ear it and sticky note it and put your notes in.
yes.
So we've got some questions, and I'll remind our viewers, again, use that chat button. It's on the bottom of your screen. Just click on chat and then you can start typing. So we've got a question, a great question. So one of our viewers has asked, do you recommend that we contact you even if we don't have a specific need right now? My husband is extremely disabled, almost 80. We've never used Frederick County public resources to help him. I pay for aides to come into our home. He does need help with everything. We don't need financial support. Just want to know what's out there.
So the one great thing about Diane's smiling. The one great thing about the screening tool is that we can utilize that with anybody. And that through kind of going through that, if there are gaps or holes in his support, that would help us maybe link to other services. And Diane said, about the referral to AERS, the income, none of us, are bound by that possible income limit. Sometimes it's really nice to have that second set of eyes go in, because our assessment is technically a phone assessment. But, in the days when AERS can get in and do home visits, having that set of eyes come in with the medical background that they have, they may see something, a piece of adaptive technology that may be beneficial or something like that. So I would always say it's never too early to call. We're always happy to work. We, again, if it's, something that somebody needs or whatever, helping you figure that out, where, even if you have the finances to purchase it, where that, might be and how to go about it. You'd be amazed at the number of, we were talking about this in a meeting yesterday, the amount of adaptive technology that exists in our world to make life easier for people.
I think I know I often recommend that people call before they're in crisis, right? Mm-hmm. When they can think clearly and ask questions and there's time to piece things together rather than in a moment of complete and utter panic. Because ladies, for both of your programs, there is a delay. It's not that someone calls today and gets to talk to Joy and gets a screen and then gets AERS in there the next day. That's not how it works, right?
Correct.
Right.
So, go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I was going to say, there's usually, we will get them in as soon as possible. And like I said, in other counties, I'm hearing just, terrible stories that they're so behind, they just can't get out there for months, believe it or not. I say week to 2. We pride ourselves on our goal was a 5-day turnaround, 5-day business days from our date of a referral to go ahead and get that scheduled. And we do pretty good. I would say that we do a good job of getting someone within a week or 2 at the most, getting them seen. But absolutely, a plan is better than no plan at all. So the sooner you can get in and get the level 1 screen and then get referred to AERS for the assessment, we'd much rather go in and find out that you don't need anything right now, but guess what? Here's the plan. And you might want to start talking about, because some people say, well, I don't think I'm going to need assisted living, or I don't need a nursing home. But well, now let's start thinking about that. Like, what if, what's going to happen if something happens to you as a primary caregiver? What's the backup plan? Maybe there's things that you didn't think about right now because everything's going well. But what happens if you get sick as the primary caregiver and your husband or maybe it's your wife that they rely on you and you're down and out? Now what's going to happen, right? So we try to help kind of put all that in perspective and say, okay, what's a plan? Let's start talking it out now. And that way there is no crisis. We try to avoid a crisis.
If somebody's in your system after making a call, do they stay in your system? So if somebody follows up 6 months later with a bigger need, their information's already there. Is that the case?
Yeah. Once they work with us, yes, they are in our system, whether they do a level 1 screen or not. And we maintain that information. We try to have the same MAP worker work with them, but that's not always possible, but we do have notes and keep things like that. So the next person coming on, you know, can be up to speed. MAP right now, it really depends on our call volume. Right now, our call volume is very high. So we're looking at 3 to 4 days out to return calls. You know, unless it's a crisis call, we try to determine those and kind of bump those up. But we do, you know, because we're doing so many other things, as you know, other than just the level 1 screen, you know, financial things and people's medications and all kinds of stuff. You know, it can be, you know, time consuming, and we spend as much time as someone needs, and we follow up as much as they need. So whether that's calling one of Diane's workers, and that's what I was doing right before I jumped on for this presentation, was I was emailing one of her nurses about an upcoming screening that she has that I just completed the level 1. And it had already been scheduled with her, but I wanted her to know some background, some what I felt was pretty significant information. So yeah, the sooner you can make the call, I tell everybody, if you call, the call will be returned. We all the time, when we call folks back, they say, thank you so much for calling me back. And I'm always so surprised by that. Like, well, you called, well, call you back. But I guess other places don't, but we will. And, you know, and we're happy to help. I know Diane's folks are the same way.
Yeah, we are. And it's important to note, and I didn't point this out earlier, we are not considered an urgent service. So if there is something, you see something kind of amiss with a neighbor or a friend or a relative, and you think, oh my gosh, this is an emergency, you can certainly call Adult Protective Services. You know, they're going to get out there a whole lot faster than we will. And they have a longer reach, right? They can get out there, they can do things with the law that we certainly as AERS assessors cannot do. So if you see something horrific going on, absolutely, you can call, you can get a welfare check. You can call, you know, and have the sheriff's office do a welfare check. APS is a good agency to start with. So again, we're not to be used as an emergent service. We're just not. So a lot of people call and have the misconception that I'm going to call you today and you're going out there today because my mom doesn't have any food, or I noticed my neighbor, you know, I heard they don't have any heat, things like that. So there are other emergent services out there for vulnerable adults and seniors at risk. It just wouldn't be us. Now, if you called us, we would certainly try to get the ball rolling and reach out to our you know, colleagues in the community as well. But that should not be your first call. We should not be your first call. You should call somebody else in either law enforcement for a welfare check or Adult Protective Services if there's an immediate urgent need, because we're not going to get out there for a week or two, probably.
We have a question. So whether we're preparing for a call with MAP or with AERS, is there an online checklist or things that we should be prepared to know or have available to us when we're having those conversations with you?
So I can speak for the MAP assessment. That answer would be no, because everything is opinion. Pretty much, it's just somebody's ability to complete their daily living activities. And so I often tell folks to put them at ease that the screening police would never come after you for how you answer any of my questions. So, you know, we're just looking at how much assistance does someone need to complete their daily living activity. So, yeah, so nothing needed. I've had people complete it driving in the car and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. The biggest thing for us, we liked a list of medications, because that's part of our assessment, is we list out all of your medications. And if they don't have that, if we just can get the verbal authorization to contact their physician for a list, or go into the hospital Meditech system and print out something if they had a recent hospital stay. A lot of people, like even myself, I can't remember what I did yesterday some days. So they don't remember, like, oh, I was in the hospital, I think it was back in March, but I don't know. If you give us permission, we have consent. And if you can sign the consent, give us a verbal over the phone now, and then we'll mail you the hard copy to send back to us. But a verbal consent to check with your physician or the hospital system to get the information we need. So that's the only thing you'd have to have in place for us is just medications. And again, if you can't, you can't. We'll get them somehow. But Other than that, we take at your word what you say as far as your financial situation. We don't ask for documentation, proof of anything. Other agencies might, and we let them know that too, that, just because we don't ask for financial information, because a lot of the programs that we'll refer to are financially driven. They will not give you assistance if you're overscaled financially. So we don't want to waste their time or yours, kind of sending you down a road that you don't need to be on. So if you tell us truthfully, oh, I make this much money, and we'll know you're overscaled for this program, there might be other programs we can refer you to. But we just ask that you're honest with us. Again, we're not going to judge you either way. And again, if you choose not to, we've had clients choose not to. They're like, I'm not giving you my financial information. You don't need to know that. And that's okay. We'll make the referrals anyway. But we tell them they will require proof of bank statements or whatever to get services in your home. So you may not have to show us and be honest with us, but you will have to be honest with the resources and the folks that we refer you to.
Fantastic. I want to remind our audience, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We've got just a few minutes left, so want to make sure that we can answer all of your questions. Ladies, I very much appreciate your time today. And Diane, I just want to clarify for folks, so your nurses, your social worker, you make the decision, right? Someone in the office makes a decision about who is assigned to the case, a nurse versus a social worker, and you're doing those calls via the phone, not in the house. When COVID is over, hopefully you'll be back and seeing people in person.
We had a quick little turn, like a couple weeks that we were back in the home. And then things just got bad again. So just last week, the determination was made to go back to telephone assessments. But I am a strong proponent of in-home assessments because you really can get eyes on the situation there. You can see if there's expired meds. I mean, I can tell you I take my medications, but maybe I'm not taking them correctly. So yeah, based on how the referral comes in, we'll look at that and decide, should that be a social worker to go out there? Is it more like things like kind of stuff going on that a social worker would be best, equipped to handle, or should it be a nurse? And the beauty of our team, they work so well together. Even if you get a social worker assigned to you and there's a lot of medical stuff, they've been doing it long enough. They're pretty tuned into the medical stuff. But there's a lot of, conversations back and forth. We have a team meeting. We discuss some of our hard cases amongst ourselves. So if our social worker says, oh, this person's kind of medically complex and I'm really not sure, she'll reach out and talk to one of the nurses. And vice versa. We pick our social worker brain all the time because social workers see things in a different perspective than nurses do. We see things a certain way and they have a whole different softer side at times. So they can relate. So pretty much if we have somebody that comes in with a lot of mental health needs, a lot of stuff that they're grappling with, we'll probably most likely assign that to a social worker to kind of go out there and kind of help them, because our social worker has a huge mental health background. She ran a program and she did counseling and whatnot herself. So we're blessed to have her. But again, any of our assessors are equipped to handle any of the referrals that come in. They absolutely are. So it won't matter if you get a social worker that comes out to see you or you get a nurse, you'll get the best of the best, because the assessment we do, it's not open to interpretation. It's 22 pages of questions and it gets put into a system and it spits out the information. So anybody can ask the questions. There's not a lot of room for error there.
Do you guys want to talk a little bit about some of the services that you can help refer people to? Like when you meet someone in need, you mentioned Meals on Wheels. What are some other programs that you might be able to help link people to?
Housing services. Because a lot of people come to us and say, you need to find us housing. So we give them a list of resources. We hook them up with the housing authority, things like that. There's housing, medication, equipment. If one of our clients say, I need a chair lift, or a stair lift or a lift chair, we reach out to a lot of our nonprofits and try to get funding to assist. If nothing else, if not pay for the whole entire product that they need, the device that they need, maybe partially, maybe a person says, I can afford this much, but I can't afford to buy a whole entire lift chair. We try to reach out to some of our community partners, our nonprofits, and try to get some funding to assist that. So medications, equipment, supplies like Depends, Chucks, things like that. Housing, APS. We make our own APS referrals sometimes. You know, we refer people that need a little bit more support for guardianship. Sometimes it's a guardianship case. Legal aid. We refer folks to legal aid because there's some stuff that they're grappling with there and they need some help with. So we'll give them contacts to legal aid or the senior services division legal group that they have there, the contacts they have there. Let's see, help me out, Joy. What else do we do? There's a lot of things.
Home repair. So folks who may need a ramp or grab bars, or, you know, they've lived in their house for 50 years and the plumbing's going. We've helped with trees falling on the house. So we work very closely with Habitat for Humanity and the housing program through the county that offers a senior grant for assistance with that. You know, we've had animals, you know, get health care for their animals. You know, yeah, we've kind of tackled pretty much a lot of questions. I mean,
yeah, and food for animals. You know, our seniors love their pets, right? That's a huge companion for them, and so we'll do anything we can to connect them with resources so they can continue to feed their pet. Because sometimes they're choosing to feed the pet versus feed themselves or get their medication. So if we find out that someone has a cat and they can't afford the cat food, we're not going to say you should get rid of the cat. Because that might be their only companion, the reason that they live, you know, the reason they get up every single day and face the day is because they have that cat to take care of. So we're not going to take that away from them, because I'm not going to do that. I'm a huge proponent of animal and therapy and whatnot. So we're going to find out, are there resources to help you with providing food? And we've had resources for a vet bill, you know, things like that. So, yeah, we get pretty creative. I mean, there's probably not much that hasn't come down the pike that we haven't been able to brainstorm together as a group. Like, okay, we've got this coming up. You know, it could be anything. Like Joy said, we've had some hoarding situations where folks have needed some help with some clean out. We've had folks that have moved and needed help with moving. So there's some volunteer organizations out there that'll help like box up their stuff, or if nothing else, just transport their belongings to their next residence. So again, no problems too big or too small. We will attempt and do the best we can. I can't say we're going to solve everything, but we certainly will do our best to connect you with the resources. And if we don't have it, we spend a lot of time talking amongst ourselves on the needs that we face in Frederick County still for our folks, and how do we support this family, or how, you know, what direction can we, you know, put them in. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's out of county. We may not have that resource in our county. Sometimes they can't afford the housing in our county. Sometimes they have to move out of county. So there's some hard discussions that have to happen sometimes for some of our folks, but we try to do everything we can for them to keep them at home and safe and in our community.
Yeah, you are both really wonderful examples of how rich this community is and how special. We've all talked about this collegially, but you know, everybody's connected and really has a passion to help the folks in our community. So someone's asked a great question and is a great way to end our presentation. So our viewer asks, so you provide information both for individuals needing financial assistance and folks just trying to find information and resources. Is that correct? Does that sum it up?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pat. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
So we are coming into the last stretch. I know that you guys had a slide. Do you want to share your slide with that contact information again?
Well, how about this? I will try.
And that's okay. We're happy with that. While Joy is doing that, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. We have recorded this presentation. We have not been great about sharing with you where we are putting these recordings, and that's because there's another person involved in that, and that's been a little bit rocky, but I'm hopeful with the new year that we can make all of these recordings available to you. The Compass for Caregiver series has had some great presentations now. I think we've been in it about 1.5 years now. So we want to get you connected with those, and I will send that information out to you with the next webinar advertisement. I will tell you that our next webinar is Wednesday, February 9th at 1 o'clock. We have a team from Frederick Health Hospital's Supportive and Geriatric Care Program, a fairly new program with lots of great information. We're looking forward to having them present to learn more about what that is all about. And again, I'll send advertising for that. The link to register is the same link that you used today. We do want you to register, and a new Zoom link will come out to you after that. But if you have any questions, you can respond to the email or send your questions here in the chat. You've got the contact information for Diane Grove and the Adult Evaluation and Review Service at AERS, and Joy Rowe with the Maryland Access Point. So thank you. And again, that link for the Blue Book. All right, folks, unless there's any last minute questions, I think we'll call it an afternoon, let everybody get back to their days. Joy and Diane, thank you both so much. And everybody, I hope we see you back here in February.
Thank you again for the invite.
Yes,
Take
thanks
care,
for having
everybody.
us. We really appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Hey guys.